Elite Facts presents
10 horror films you need to watch this Halloween.
10.
Friday the 13th, Part 6. Okay, so technically speaking, most Friday the 13th films aren't anything special. All in all, they're just fun to watch. However, we consider this film to be the best in the series. Now, what makes this film different, you ask? Well, first off, this installment is the first time we see Jason as an undead being, rather than a large living serial killer. Because of this, the series is able to get away with more illogical things later on in the series, like Jason being able to survive gunshots, electrocution, explosions, stabbings, etc. This film also adds a lot more personality than the other films. At this point, the main protagonist, Tommy Jarvis, has appeared in 3 films, thus giving his character a whole story arc. We first met this character when he was a child, saw him grow up haunted by what Jason has done to his family, and now in this film, he wants to finish Jason off once and for all, so he can finally move on with his life. That history alone gets the viewer invested, not to mention how much more creative Jason gets in this film when it comes to disposing of people, and the fact that it has a kick-ass soundtrack by Alice Cooper. Some people may argue that other films in the series are better than this one, and believe us, we find other films in this series just as fun, but this one sticks out the most to us.
9.
Alien. So, in general, the first 2 Alien films were incredible. It's pretty rare to find a sequel that's better than the original, but Aliens managed to do this. Aliens takes what makes the first film so awesome, adds in a ton more action elements, and surprisingly, it worked out, as the film was both a box office and critical hit. However, when it comes to horror, the first film, simply titled Alien, has the genre on lockdown. The 1979 film follows a crew on board a commercial spacecraft called the Nostromo. During their expedition, the crew is intercepted by an alien species known as the Xenomorph. The film takes the slasher genre and flawlessly incorporates sci-fi elements into it. Just the tagline alone sets the tone for the film, as it ominously tells you, in space, no one can hear you scream. The tagline couldn't be any more true to the whole mood of the film, as all the main characters are left helpless, as they have to either hide or defend themselves from this relentless entity from another world. Oh, not to mention the fact that Sigourney Weaver's character, Ellen Ripley, is a complete badass in this film. Just saying.
8.
Evil Dead 2. The Evil Dead films are, without a doubt, staples of the horror genre, bringing something truly original to what was an already saturated market. The first film was pretty damn good, however, the second film found its own awesome groove, as it was able to find a perfect balance of horror and comedy. Because of this mixture, the film literally gives a much more insane vibe, as we see the film's main protagonist, Ash Williams, descend into madness during the first half of the film's running time. The effects of this film were much better too, as makeup for the possessed characters had improved tenfold over the first film, although that shouldn't tarnish what the first film accomplished on a very minimal budget. Without a doubt, Evil Dead 2 is a film you should check out this Halloween.
7.
Candyman. Candyman is counted as one of the last classic horror films in what was becoming a dying genre. Sure, throughout the 1990s, plenty of horror films were released. Hell, we even got some decent horror films. But Candyman is a film that came out in the mid-1990s, yet had the same feeling as the combination slasher and psychological horror films released in the 1970s and 80s. Despite its short running time, the film not only establishes a deep and interesting backstory behind the main villain of the film, Candyman, played by horror veteran Tony Todd, but is also able to show him wreak terror on the mind of a young journalist by the name of Helen Lyle, played by Virginia Madsen. This film has an instantly creepy vibe to it, as it mixes fictional modern-day horror with the classic myth of Bloody Mary. The acting is on point, and Tony Todd really nails it as Candyman. The situations presented in the film are horrifying, and it's gained a tremendous cult following since its original release, so check it out.
6.
Day of the Dead, 1985. Although considered the black sheep of the original 3 of the Dead films, Day of the Dead is still a competent zombie flick. The film takes place sometime after Dawn of the Dead. At this point, the undead plague has consumed the populace of the world, with only a few living people left to fend for themselves. This group of people consists of scientists as well as military, who have been given the task of eradicating the zombie plague. The scientists suggest either finding a cure to reverse the infection or training the zombies to exist alongside the living. The military, however, are sick of living in a bunker and want to escape, taking out as many zombies as they can in the process. This film is filled with some amazing special effects for its time, and that helps to make the experience that much more immersive.
5,
Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Okay, this movie can be summed up like this. A psychopath who wears a mask made out of the flesh of one of his victims runs around with a chainsaw chasing other groups of people so he can provide his redneck, cannibalistic family with food. That simple premise alone is the perfect setup for a fantastic horror film experience. Technically, this film is credited as one of the first modern-day slasher films released, as it single-handedly revitalized the genre that would find mainstream popularity within the coming decade. As stated, the film centers around the Sawyer family, a family who are not only cannibals, but who also use human flesh to create things like furniture and clothing. Needless to say, they're insane. Leatherface himself is the main antagonist of the whole series, as he is the only one who does all the dirty work for the family. The reason for this is because Leatherface is, well, special. He doesn't know any better and does exactly what his family asks of him. This is one film you simply can't miss this Halloween season.
4,
The Exorcist. Without a doubt a staple in the horror genre, The Exorcist is still to this day one of the scariest films ever made. Originally released in 1973, The Exorcist focused solely on paranormal events, as well as demonic entities, which back in the 1970s and 1980s wasn't seen all too much, as the market was saturated with slasher films. The film centers around a young girl by the name of Regan who has been possessed by a demonic entity. That alone makes the film creepy. Kids in horror films are always going to be creepy. This is a must-see if you want to lose sleep this Halloween.
3,
The Reanimator. Unlike most zombie films, the focus in The Reanimator isn't on the zombies themselves, but rather on the characters who have created the whole zombie situation that they're in. Herbert West is a young doctor who has created a serum that has the ability to bring the dead back to life. This serum turns the dead into unholy abominations that are able to retain their intelligence after reanimation. This H.P. Lovecraft story is one you can't miss this Halloween if you love the zombie genre.
2,
Brain Dead, Dead Alive. Released as Brain Dead in Sweden, Dead Alive is a sure contender for one of the goriest films ever made. Directed by Peter Jackson, Dead Alive takes place in New Zealand as a zombie epidemic sweeps the country, thanks to a group of explorers capturing an ancient animal called the Sumatran rat monkey, who has venomous bites and scratches that can turn the living into zombies. This film itself is just freaking madness.
1,
Halloween 1978. Okay, this one is a no-brainer. This film is perfect, as it pretty much defined the modern-day slasher film genre. This film took Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho and cranked it up to 11. The film focuses on the deranged psychopath Michael Myers as he goes on a killing spree in Haddonfield, Illinois on Halloween night. The short backstory on Michael Myers is done incredibly well, showing that he was always deranged, even as a small child. In the opening scenes of the film, we see a very young Michael Myers dispose of his own sister. Then he's sent off to a mental institution until his escape many years later that results in the previously mentioned killing spree. This film is timeless, as it is still a fantastic watch even to this day. Sure, the series has had its fair share of ups and downs, but the original film alone easily makes Michael Myers one of the greatest villains in horror film history. If not this, then check out either John Carpenter's The Thing, a remake from 1982, or They Live with Rowdy Roddy Piper. Either one of these 3 John Carpenter films represent some of the best work in the genre. Just make sure to avoid that Halloween remake, though.
Don't forget to like us and subscribe for more Elite Facts.